Okay, I'm Annie Stewart, and my sister P's death inspired some amazing adventures. This started 15 months ago when she returned home on hospice. After 11 years with cancer, hospice care allowed her to return home. I had her for nearly 5.5 weeks. When she arrived, I took in her two cats and dog, creating quite the animal kingdom. Cats misbehaved after the first week. They fought, and I got bit and scratched. I went to the hospital for anaphylaxis. I asked the nurse not to intubate me until I knew how the medications were functioning in the hospital. I got gone in a flash and stood on the ceiling watching Katie sleep peacefully in her hospice bed. Our friend was watching her from the living room couch. What would happen to Katie if I died now? I wondered. The response came from several sources. The voice said, "She'll be okay," in my head. I saw her four cats and dog appear as if the world disappeared. "No worries. Everything will be okay." This question is repeated. My three grown children's features appeared as all the animals stared at me. Then I was promised everything will be fine. Despite not knowing why, my kids were staring at me. I didn't want to leave them before the question ever occurred, even though they were adults. There was no further interaction. I didn't feel alive, which was odd. Not sure if I might pass through walls or touch anything else, I avoided doing so leaving the hospital. After going outdoors, I could barely hear anything. I could see people talking and cars moving by. Not sure if I was living or dead. After crossing the field, I reached a little brick building with a sidewalk. I touched the wall to test my hand's capacity to pass through solid objects. Since I'm dead, if it works, I had to try it even if I didn't know how I felt. As I strolled down the sidewalk, I kept touching the wall to confirm my location. 2 weeks later, my worries subsided, and I heard birds, cars, and people again. A few days after this occurrence, I questioned my friend, "Why were you sitting in a different place than you normally sit?" She usually sits near the foot of the sofa, but she wasn't there this time. "Well, how did you know?" she said. Since I saw her during the ordeal, I'm not sure if it was an OBE or NDE. Her seat reinforced what I observed. 2 weeks later, my friend came home, looked at me, and said, "You need to go and take a break." I took a shower and took some time to myself. That was my first indication that Katie was being treated seriously. I could relax because I was her primary caregiver. Katie entered me in the shower. Her spirit merged with mine. I panicked out of the shower and went about my day, thinking, "Haha, sis, look what I can do." Preoccupied, I paid little attention. It happened again 3 or 4 days later. On this time, I hesitated and thought, well, let me see. I touched my hair, supposing I could tell if it belonged to Katie or herself. As I stepped outside my body, I felt Kate's hair on my head and saw us merge. I saw my hand reaching up before the event finished. My friend and I discussed my bewilderment and lack of direction. She suggested I ask Kate not to do it. "I love you, but I can't deal with this right now," I told Katie after the shower incident. "Being preoccupied with you has prevented it from happening again." Katie died after 2 days of inactivity. I stayed with my intensive care unit nurse friend in case Katie died. Kate left Tuesday morning. We either fixed Katie's predicament or our friend got up around 7. Around 7, she kissed Katie's forehead goodbye and said, "Listen, I have to go home." Katie started crying after 2 days of being unresponsive. Interestingly, she was subliminally aware. While on the couch, I remembered I was alone with my sister and locked the door. My gut told me she was dying and I would soon be alone. I had no idea how to handle this because it was all new to me. I wanted to sit on the couch to calm down, but I knew I couldn't. I stood up and joined Katie. Being unable to devote a few more minutes seemed weird. I stood up from the couch by leaning forward and saw 842 large, brilliant numbers. I said I'm going to brush it aside because I didn't understand it. I must find Katie. I sat up in my little office chair after lowering the armrests onto her bed and resting my head on the pillow next to her. A calming African song my dad used to sing to us kids when we were sick or hurt started while she lay on her back. I sang this lullaby right into her ear. I trusted my instincts that it was a parcel or scroll. "All right, here it is," was all I felt. I wasn't surprised. After singing to her for an unknown period, I saw only her and myself from above. Nothing was there anymore, My room was pale gray like damp beach sand, and the bed top was gone. Once I realized that, we were on a road. I stood on this road with Katie on my right. We didn't walk there. The roadway was lined with pastel flowers and plants for miles, and it was narrow enough for us. As a photographer, I thought, wow, that would make an amazing picture. The muted colors contributed to my awe. Every shade gone. I knew the blossoms had color, even if I couldn't see it. They were vibrant, not see-through or white, but I wasn't acquiring additional color. I knew it was because I had to focus on Katie and my work. A second insight followed. I had no idea how I had worked out what to do. All I knew was that I was here and knew what to do. Until we finished this journey, Katie stood by me without touching or looking at me. But I could feel her presence as she stood beside me. She wasn't terrified about dying, but she was concerned about going on. After telepathically understanding and feeling her thoughts and emotions, I told her, "It's okay, you're fine. You can stand and walk without any pain anymore." I saw her trying out her legs from afar. "Oh, great, all right, that's good," she said. After saying, "That feels better," she straightened. Finally, I told her, "We have to walk down this road. There's a gate at the end of the road, and that's where we have to go." In her last 6 to 8 months, whenever something happened, physically or emotionally, or she had to change or move, she would ask, "Give me a minute." I had learned early on not to hurry her, but to give her just enough time to relax and move. When she asked, I respectfully answered, "Okay, take as much time as you need." After waiting on this road, she said, "Okay, we can go." Her voice overpowered me again, but I couldn't hear her. Our road trip began. I say moving rather than walking because I didn't know how quickly we were going. All we did was go down this road, not float. Every few minutes, she said, "Give me a minute," so we had to wait. We were talking simultaneously, but it was low-key and generic, nothing particularly touching, at least according to me. Katie suddenly stopped about midway and said, "No, Annie, I think I'd rather stay here with you." I told her she couldn't turn around or go any other way. We continued because we had no choice. I had one more chance to tell her how much I loved her, how much I would miss her, and all the other final goodbyes. Like the preceding item, it was packaged. She relaxed like my emotions were soaking into her, not my words. I saw the gate after her second, just a minute or two before she said, "Okay, we can go." We continued down this road. 2 square pillars topped the gate, with bars below. Through these bars, I saw my parents and many other relatives and friends waiting behind the gate. "Katie, listen, there's Mom, Dad, Aunt so-and-so, and friends of yours," I said. I sensed her discomfort as she swiftly retreated, refusing to be carried there. She was capable and self-reliant, and one in her own way. I assured her no one would drag her across. We stopped 6 to 8 feet from the gate after a short distance. It appears they are waiting for us to go. You can see Mom, Dad, and my nephew who died 2 years ago, and a friend of yours whose husband died, and friends from years ago. They looked like minimalist paintings without details. I recognized them without seeing their eyes. After a while, I could see Katie's head through the bars. They were clearly different people. Her mood improved. "Just raise your hand like you would in a classroom, and the gate will open," I said. She replied quickly, "Okay, just give me a minute," and we stood there, taking it all in. Kate was the center of attention, and I saw no one was seeing me. I didn't feel left out or upset even though Kate was standing next to me the whole time because no one was staring at me. Though Kate was the center of attention, I enjoyed watching everyone. I advised her to stand back before opening the gate. "I'll stay with you till the end, but I need to take a break." I didn't know how, but I knew I had to. Katie was ahead of me on my right, so I retreated. I reminded her to lift her hand to open the gate. "Stand with your hands by your sides. No one will leave until you arrive." All eyes were on her. The gate entered the gatepost after she lifted her hand, not passing beyond it. On the other side, I only saw plants and flowers with unknown colors. Finally, we could see everyone. My parents, my nephew Matthew, and me, plus a lot of people I recognized but couldn't identify. It was like stepping into a crowded room and thinking, "Oh, I recognize that person." I had no idea where all those people had come from, so we stood there when Kate unlocked the gate. I said yes, of course. She turned nearly completely around and asked, "Can I look at you one last time?" Her brown hair, blue eyes, and gorgeous complexion were visible. She seemed younger, happier, and more complete than 20 years earlier. She fled quickly. I only wanted her glance. I thought that as she quickly returned to the people. But knowing everything would be okay made her feel better. The desire for her to look at me was brief. She asked to wave again after I encouraged her. "Take as much time as you need." I said, "Yes." She took her first step forward with an unusual left-hand gesture. Before jogging, she walked carelessly with her left hand lowered and right outstretched. She looked relieved because her shoulders had rolled back. She knew everything would be fine. It was a world apart from the start. At that time, I believed everything would be fine. At the gate, she extended her hand and welcomed everyone. Their final move was stunning. Matthew, who stood on her right as she neared the gate, smiled broadly at his closeness to Kate. "My aunt, Kate's here," he thought. Catherine never believed in a hereafter and never expected to see these people. The love, pleasure, and warmth between them was obvious. I didn't feel excluded again. Kate slipped between the gateposts and entered, where everyone hugged and embraced her. I saw a wavy line between the gateposts that was fading as individuals passed. The gateposts and their followers vanished into the fog at continent speed. Suddenly, I thought it was pale, nearly blue, but I wasn't sure. Though I could sense the hue, it had disappeared again. Kate, the gateposts, and others gently retreated. Kate didn't need to look at me. She was happy and everything on that side disappeared into mist. I didn't know if it was male or female, but a voice came as it faded. It seemed to stretch anywhere from where I stood. That was a job well done. I didn't turn to see who was talking because I expected it. I wound up in a left-hand parking lot off the road. Everything Katie and I went through appeared to evaporate. I stood where I had seen fog roll in, but there was no color. It wasn't novel, so I wasn't worried. After that, it enveloped and pulled me up. I felt like they were reassembling me like a puzzle. No change, no transformation. I was being reconstructed, possibly cured. Inexplicable. The time I spent in the fog and mist is a mystery, yet it was peaceful and relaxing. Then I felt a pop like I was going through a thin layer of paper or material, but I couldn't hear it. I suddenly found myself in Katie's living room, my head on her pillow. My cats and dog were back, and I could see and hear everything. I looked around and saw 8:42 in the morning on the second hand of the clock. That was the figure I saw when I rose up from the sofa. At that moment, everything fell into place, and I knew it was my chance. My interaction lasted around an hour and 40 minutes, starting around 7 in the morning. I sat for another minute. After walking with my sister to the other side, I knew she was okay and had the most life-changing experience. But I kept staring at my dead sister. Being torn between awe and grief was challenging. Katie was like my other half since we always supported each other. I put that in a box and ignored it till a few days later. Dealing with Katie's absence was my biggest concern. In the weeks that followed, I realized that I had ignored many near-death experiences, like the one in the shower, since I was 17 years old. Since Katie died, I've heard from her, which has helped me understand what happened previously. In my head, I hear her voice. At 3 in the morning, she visited me and it was great. She was clear and vivid. I could almost feel her. Her lone word that day was, "Hi, Annie." It was 3 in the morning. "Katie, this isn't fair. Why did you leave me here? We were supposed to get old together." She said, "No, Annie, remember last time you left first. Now it's your turn to stay longer." I was outraged because Kate didn't believe in reincarnation. I battled that day. Kate wouldn't return. Those are only a few of my many adventures. Not all have ended. Much has changed. I'm more perceptive and can notice subtleties I missed previously. It was amazing and transforming.